Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of All-Star AD on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's All-Star guest, but we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, Florida Coaches Coalition, We Coach, and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. Check out these three great organizations. You should really be a part of them. And now let's have a quick word. Don't fast forward. Stay with us from our podcast sponsors. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards for their support. You've heard me say before that one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director was a Sideline Interactive score table for our gym. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and their boards in action. That's sidelineinteractive.com. You won't be disappointed. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets, not just for your athletic events, but for things like dances, your school plays, your concerts, even graduation. They'll also show you how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that's providing you hands-on support. That's every step of the way, before, during, and after. Go to Hometown Ticketing and check out what their products can do for you. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com and check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. Snap Store allows you to order custom gear for everybody in your program. Snap Connect is their family engagement platform, and Snap Raise is their fundraising platform. We've used it with great success, and so can you. They've actually helped schools just like yours raise over $700 million. They even have a program where you can get your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. Does anybody else offer that? I don't think so. For more information, go to snapraise.com. That's snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And if you go to huddle.com, you're going to find the tools to help your coaches, your athletes, and your teams perform at the highest level. Huddle.com is going to provide you with a professional grade solution to the challenges that you and your coaches face. So go to huddle.com. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their touchscreen interactive video consoles. You know, they have a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. And if you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, you're going to find it at vitalsignswalloffame.com. Talk to John and Gretchen and their entire team, and they're going to show you how to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. You'll find it all at vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. Go to Gipper.com and tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Use our code ADPOD10 and you'll get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Create custom branded content for your school's social media channel. We also want to thank Final Forms for their support. Final Forms is the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile apps, and they've got reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in your house. Final Forms can also help your coaches with attendance and communication. And for you as an AD, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. talk to someone who gets it. For the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. And before we go, we want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. Athletic directors typically only hear from that 2%, the parents who are disgruntled or a student athlete who maybe didn't have a good experience. And we need to hear from them, but you also need to hear from the 98% that really love your program. And that's what athletic surveys can provide. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out all the different types of surveys that they can provide you and your program. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Maybe. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of what we're calling D. This is our new series featuring 10 great women athletic directors who are sharing their perspectives and their views on issues that we all face as athletic directors. And very excited. We've got a good friend on the program today, Courtnay Windemaker. Courtnay, previous podcast guest, she's a certified master athletic administrator, and she is the assistant county athletic director for Polk County Schools here in Florida. Pretty big district and a very successful one. But anyway, Courtnay, welcome to All-Star AD.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well,
today I am going to be, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, well, we're excited to have you on. I know you're tremendously busy, so I'm going to get out of the way. What do you have for our listeners today on All-Star AD?
Today I'm going to be talking about hosting events, which sounds like there's not much to it, but there really is a lot when you start to break it down a little bit. The first thing everybody pretty much goes to is contracts, officials, making sure all those things are done. But to delve into it, a lot of times people just say, oh yeah, we'll be there, the officials are there, but the contracts aren't signed. So you always want to start off by making sure the other team signs your either game or tournament contract. That way you can hold them accountable if they don't show. I've had situations in the past where teams have dropped out, not paid their entry fee, and not been able to fill that space. And so if you have them contracted, then there's more steps you can take to get your financials back from them. So that's very important. Officials, make sure you're checking weekly for officials. And I always try to email ADs and the officials just to make sure, this is what we have for this week. Is this what you have? Let's match it up, make sure, because I never want to get that phone call that the officials aren't here, both teams are here. What do we do? Well, whoop, didn't check it. So that's the second thing I'd look into. And then administration. Check in weekly with your administrators just to make sure. We're all busy. We all sometimes get dates wrong, but if you do that weekly check-in when you're checking your contracts, you're checking your officials, that way you make sure you have everybody there for coverage. And along with that, you need to frequently review expectations for administrators at games, especially when you switch from a football to, let's say, soccer, basketball season to softball, baseball. Officials associations all have different little ins and outs that they throw in there. So you want to make sure that your non-athletic director administrators know those things and are prepared, especially with soccer and basketball. I think we all know that officials, they really like to be escorted out of the building. It's in the contract, and you need to make sure that happens. I had an incident at a school I was at before where the administrator was there. The whole game got heated. She went and ran to take the money boxes back to the office. And in that 5 to 10 minute span, the game ended. And there started an interaction between our coach and the officials, where if an administrator had been there, they could have stepped in, gotten the officials out, gotten coach to the locker room, and instead it ended up up with a kind of like, meet me outside. So it did not end well. So make sure you're reviewing your expectations with your administrators on where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. We all want to get out early at the end of the game, but you can take the 5 extra minutes to walk the money box up after the facility's cleared out and everything's good and everyone's where they need to be. So just make sure you're checking with your administration. Seasoned admin know, but it's always good, and especially with the new ones when they're doing their first game, it's always nice sometimes to be there with them too, just to kind of walk them through the ins and outs and make sure they know what they're doing and what they need to do. Going along with your admin, checking with your district and your school and your security protocols. If you need to check and make sure that you've got your police officers or guardians or whoever you're having work your extra security at your games, and just make sure that they're on the schedule and they know they're supposed to be there. And then along with that, your table workers, gate workers. Each school and district's different. Most of the schools that I've been at, it's been the coach's responsibility to get the ticket takers or their announcers, book people, but you need to make sure and follow up with them to make sure they have all those people, so you don't show up to a game and it's on you to take tickets. I've had it happen, sitting there selling tickets, not thinking it's going to be a big deal. It's a small crowd, quiet game, sitting there collecting money. Fight breaks out behind me in the stands between 2 kids. I'm looking at the money box. I'm looking at the kids. Close the money box and throw it to the side, jump up, break up the fight. And all that could have been avoided. I would have been able to be more attentive if my coach hadn't fallen through and not gotten somebody to collect tickets at the game. So just make sure you have all your key people and make sure they know they're supposed to be there, what time they're supposed to be there, what they're supposed to do when they're there. The second main point is knowing your state and local rules and regulations. So as FHSAA school members, we need to know if we're playing a non-FHSAA school, are they following the FHSAA guidelines or not? Because that could turn into them having someone you say is ineligible, but it's a non-FHSAA school. It also, they don't have to agree to our contract policies because there's no FHSAA contract. So making sure you have some type of signed contract with them. We had a non-FHSAA school for a homecoming one year, and their school pastor was arrested. School shut down overnight, and we had to find a replacement in like 4 days for our homecoming game, which could have all been avoided if we had a contract. So that was a huge learning lesson for me. Make sure you have a contract, make sure you know your state and local rules, make sure you're abiding by all of them. One of the most important things is making sure you have an emergency action plan, inclement weather plan, and that your administrators, your coaches, and your student athletes all know what your emergency action plan is. We always think it's going to be a student, but we've had cases where coaches have gone down, and if it's just one coach and those students at practice, those students need to know what to do. So make sure you include at least your captains or a group of student athletes in what your emergency action plan is, so that they know, so that if your coach goes down, they're there to help. Like I said about fighting, have them plan for fights during the game, whether it's in the stands or it's on the court. Make sure you go over that with your coaches and have an exit strategy to get them out and to keep the kids off the court or the field. Because it happens, we all know it happens. It seems to be getting a little more frequent, but if we practice it with our kids, hopefully they'll do the right thing and it won't turn out badly for us. One of the bigger things is that I always try to do, you have to make sure, and it goes back to your emergency action plan, that you have an announcer at all your events, and a backup announcing system in case the power goes out. I've had the power go out during a volleyball game. Bust out the bullhorn and start talking. But even more important is we had an incident at my former school where the coaches, it's a regional girls basketball game. Coach is coaching, kids are playing. Coach's wife is behind him in the stands. Coach's wife has a heart attack. Coach's wife goes down. So immediately we radio the announcer, start announcing everybody, girls to the locker rooms, everybody leave the gymnasium. Obviously we're trying to deal with coach because it's his wife, and we're trying to calm him down and settle him down while we're dealing, and trainers are dealing with the wife, but we're trying to get, for her privacy, get everybody out, kids in the locker room, so they're not seeing this, fans out, and just coordinating. So the announcer just kept announcing, please exit, please exit, please exit. So it's always important to have an announcer and a backup in case that power goes out. For your inclement weather, make sure you watch the radar. We all do. We all have apps on our phones now. I try to make calls early, especially with bad weather, and then always have somewhere for people to go if it's an outdoor facility, whether it's their car, if you open up the gym, but just get people out from under the bleachers, out of the bleachers, get them somewhere safe. Here in Florida, lightning is nothing to play with. So always make sure you have your emergency action plan, your inclement weather plan, and that everybody knows it and that you're practicing it regularly. That's important as well. And then the final thing I kind of want to talk about is having your email group for your events. So there are apps out there, Sports U, things like that, that you can use to notify your teams. We use it with our athletic directors here in Polk, where we can notify if there's cancellations and things like that. It sends it out to everybody all at once. It's awesome. And then you're not sending 20 different emails. If you don't have something like that, make sure you notify all your stakeholders with one email. So put the officials on there, put the coaches on there, the school you're supposed to play, your ticket takers, your security, your administrator. Put them all in one email, one shot, so you know that you haven't missed anybody. And that's pretty much all I got for hosting an event.
Wow. Probably saw me writing down notes, just a master class on all the things that go into hosting your own event. And again, at Polk County, you actually hosted a number of state championship events this past year. I can imagine all of the things that you mentioned being multiplied, many times over because of the people and the schools involved. Anything stick out from hosting those events that you didn't already cover?
No, thankfully with those events, we have such a great community support group with the venues that we're working with, that it all flows, and we all have met with the FHSAA and kind of gone through all these things to make sure we have pretty much everything, T's crossed and I's dotted. So they're great with that.
Well, again, a great topic. Thanks so much for sharing. And boy, you got a lot of information in there for our listeners. Speaking of our listeners, if one of them wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more about hosting events and some of the things that you do at Polk County, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
They can email me. My email is Courtnay, COURTNAY Windemaker, WINDEMAKER at Polk, POLK-FL.net.
And Courtney's information is also available on the NIAAA portal for all of our NIAAA members. Courtnay Windemaker, thanks so much for sharing today on All-Star AD, and all the best in the coming spring season for Florida sports here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For our listeners, we do this every single week, and the Zoom recordings get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. Come back just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Once again, thanks for listening. I thought that was a really, really great program for how to make sure you're crossing all your T's and dotting your I's for scheduling events. I'm going to shut up now. But we do want to thank our sponsors, Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com for more information. Start taking the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. Sideline Interactive indoor scoring tables and video boards. It's the best purchase I ever made as an AD. Not only generates income, but also creates a great environment for your kids and your teams in the gym. SidelineInteractive.com. Gipper.com is going to help you create world-class marketing content. Use our podcast code ADPOD10 and you'll get 10% off. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Do I need to say anything else? Go to hometownticketing.com. Huddle.com. You need to turn your school into a Huddle school. There's smart cameras, their mobile apps, all the analytics, and so much more. Go to huddle.com. Snap Mobile. You need to check out the entire Snap suite of platforms. Snap Raise is their fundraising platform. They'll give you your money before you actually start your fundraiser. I don't think any other program offers that. Go to snapraise.com. Final Forms, the industry leader in forms and registration. If you want to help your stakeholders, your coaches, and you as an AD, go to finalforms.com/Jake. And vitalsignswalloffame.com. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school records and your Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Thanks again for listening to All-Star AD. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.